What's up, team? We are back. Football Friday. Lots of games to go through. The week seems shorter now because I think it was last week, right? That we had like 8 out of 10 days with football or something. And now everything happened on Sunday. No Thursday, no Saturday because we got college football. But I like it. It makes you wait. The payoff is going to be better. There's more games in the afternoon slot, which I really like. And we'll see what happens. So we're going to pick every game like we always do. Try to get our picks at the end. A couple things I noticed throughout this week. T-Mac is starting a one-on-one NBA league. That seems insanely awesome. I can't even imagine. If they do this the right way, they can... That I think you really could have insane highlights. Like and one mixtape, but legitimate tournament format. And in 2022, nailed it. I think that could be really cool. So I'm actually big in on that. But anyway, I also noticed that the font I use for my thumbnails, which should go sometimes here, I think. It's a font it's spelled S-E-G-O-E print. Zago. It's weird. It took me a long time to figure that out, but it is weird. Kismet that I chose that font. I like it, and now we have to stick with it. Going into the new year, we're going to have a little bit of a new schedule. It's still TBD, but definitely subscribe to the YouTube and click the bell so you know when I go live. And if you don't catch me live, obviously the videos are still there. And I'll keep you posted on that as we go along. And I'm going to try to get a little tighter with the topics. If we're going to do it less often. So, you'll see. I think you'll like it. Monday's picks. We won. We had the Dolphins plus 3.5 and under 44. 6.5 point teaser. That crushed. Their defense is good, and the Saints can't move the ball. So, that helped. And let's roll into Friday. What else is there to wait for? We got to go through a lot of games. Let's get into it. I'm going to skip through some of the games that seem obvious and dive harder into the more interesting ones. Because at this point in the year, it's like, do we really have to talk about Falcons football? Which I will. And then I'll go down a rabbit hole about Cordero Patterson and how he's been subpar the past 2 weeks for my fantasy team. It's annoying me that they're going to shut down a guy that's old when they're bad and they're not going to pay him anyway. Anyway, Bills. What's the spread? Let's go off this. Let's do Vegas Indy first. That's actually an interesting game because it sounds like Wentz might not play. I don't know if there's been an update in the last, hour or so, but I don't think there will be. Either he's going to clear late or he's not. So we'll see what happens with that. But the truth is, I think the Colts are just really good. Like, I've thought they were good the whole time. I don't see an issue with them. And if there was an issue, it's Wentz, right? And so Sam Ehlinger could start. I don't think he's played in the pros, obviously. I don't think he's gotten any snaps. But let's look at his college stats. Because I actually liked him at Texas, and I thought he had a really big arm, which Wentz also has. And if he turns the ball over, it's like, yeah, so does Wentz. So, he didn't throw that many picks last year. Or 20, at Texas. This doesn't really tell you everything, but you look at Carson Wentz stats. Now, the thing is, Wentz hasn't been turning the ball over for them. So whether that's the knock on him normally, they've been winning because he's not turning it over. And his stats look like 62.8, which isn't blowing the roof off of things. If Ellinger's at even 58, they should be all right. 25 touchdowns, 6 picks. So Ehlinger has to do what he did at college. It's not turn the ball over. The year before, he did turn the ball over, but he pushed it down the field more. And we'll see. But I think if you watch Hard Knocks, this team is really rallied around each other. I don't know, maybe in the middle of the season, I would feel this way about every team that I saw Hard Knocks on. I'm really enjoying that they're doing a mid-season thing. But I have seen, everything I want to see from this team, and they've rattled off a bunch of wins in a row. They lost some tough games. They're peaking now. Their defense is good, and the Raiders are lost, right? Like, I've been saying fade the Raiders for a while, and sometimes they've actually screwed me, but most of the time it's worked fine. Like, they beat the Broncos in this game, but it was Drew Lock, so you don't get credit for beating Drew Lock by 4 points, right? They squeak one out against a Browns team that was destroyed by COVID. They got destroyed by the Chiefs. They lost to Washington in a really gross game where we had Washington. It felt good. They beat the Cowboys in that weird Thanksgiving game, which we keep going back to with Dallas, being like, how did they lose this? I still don't understand it. And then they got crushed in the 3 games before that. And it's like, they haven't been good in a long time. And they're playing facing a playoff team that still has its best player. And the quarterback's out, but the quarterback, everyone treats that as a weakness. So what's the real big deal? Ellinger's not going to have to do a lot. Just don't turn it over. And you know what? He could be fine. And they're going to get their offensive line back in this game, which they didn't really have last game. Kelly is not even on the injury report. He missed last week. So I like Indy, and I could see this as a total rally around your backup game where they just blow out Vegas, and Vegas can't do anything. Vegas is going on the road. They're going west to east. They have to play early, and their season is over. Their coach got fired. They had a horrible accident arrest to their star offensive player. Is Waller playing? He's actually their star offensive player, if we're being honest. Not F. Darren Waller. Although I might say that if I bet against him and he scores 2 touchdowns. Hey. Technically still has a chance to play. You'll love to see that. That means he's probably not going to play. I mean, who knows? Doesn't seem like any COVID list. So he's not going to play. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love Indy. I just don't want to lay 7.5 that much. Where am I here? But I love them on a teaser, and we'll get them in on one as we get to the picks later. Giants and Chicago. This is one where I'm just going to fade the team that doesn't have their quarterback. At least Fields is back for Chicago. I do think Fields is better than Foles. I do think Fields is better than Dalton, and they've looked pretty much the same. So this is an upgrade for them because he can at least do something. The Giants look like they're phoning it in for the rest of the season. They have no quarterback. Is Jake Fromm starting, or is Mike Glennon starting? Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon just making horrible throws and no one talking about who he's going to start. Let's see if Google has my back. Plan to play both Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm against the Bears. That's everything you need to know about the game. This headline. No such thing as a meaningless game, says Joe Judge, as he platoons Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon onto the football field. You take the Bears. That's the end of the story. You really just take the Bears. I like actually betting the Bears at home in this one. Like, Giants going into a hostile place. I don't have the Bears on. I do have the Bears on one of my parlays later, actually. I don't have them as a major part of my 5-pack of picks this week, but the Bears should win the game. I mean, what the Giants aren't going to win. Why would they go on the road and win? Tampa and the Jets, again, it's like just start fading the teams that have given up. It's week 17. This is normally the final week of the season for a lot of these players' internal body clocks. And plenty of seasons have ended at least the last 2 weeks, right? Like, you can say that everyone in week 8 is still pumping it up hard for the Jets because they're like, the season's not over. It's halfway through. Now it's like, okay, get me home now. I'm injured. I don't want to go get my ass kicked by Tampa. Tampa has a bad secondary, but the Jets can't possibly take advantage of it because Wilson can't get the ball down the field. And they have a really scary front seven in which they will eat the Jets alive. Like, physically, they're just going to dominate them. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, Tampa's D is good because they are half good. And the other team can't take advantage of the bad half. So this is just going to be a rout. Antonio Brown's still going to play. Gronk's still going to play. I kind of realized that, like, with Brown back and Gronk fine, it's almost just right back to where we were with Godwin fine and Evans fine and Gronk and Brown out. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not a disaster. What does hurt them is having Fournette out, but they'll get him back for the playoffs. I think they just put him on the IR to give him 3 weeks off because they knew they were going to make the playoffs. In any case, Ronald Jones and Vaughn or whoever, Gio Bernard, whoever will be fine against the Jets. I would imagine the Jets will keep this frisky for like a minute, and their defense will look good for one drive, and Brady will make a bad throw, and you're like, okay. And then you'll look up in the third quarter, and it's like 41-3, and you're like, oh, yeah, probably shouldn't have taken that plus 13. So I'll lay whatever the spread is with Tampa. I acknowledge that it's probably too big on the road. It's ridiculous. I don't think they're 20-point favorites over the Jets at home or anything like that. But I'd much rather take Tampa than take the Jets, because then it's 7-0, and you're like, oh, wait, why did I do this? And then they throw a pick six, and you're like, okay, I'll just turn this off now. Atlanta-Buffalo, same thing. Like, Atlanta's really bad. Buffalo is not bad. Buffalo can score. Buffalo is peaking now offensively. They're very confident after the Patriots win. I never take these games straight up or anything when it's 14.5 points, because it's like you can win by 10 in a total blowout. And Josh Allen throws like a bad pick six at the end, and then like Atlanta gets an onside kick and kicks a field goal because they don't know what they're doing, and you're like, wait, what? But I don't know why Buffalo wouldn't score every time down the field. And this is an opportunity for them to work all three of their running backs probably and try to pick one for the playoffs, even though they're not going to run it much anyway. And Matt Ryan's been terrible. Buffalo defense has looked... I thought they were going to be really hurt by the Tre'Davious White injury. I still think it'll come back to bite them against top-tier receivers. But they've been fine. They've looked really good, actually. So we'll see what happens in this one. But at home, hostile territory, Buffalo needs the game. They need to keep winning. I don't know why you would ever take Atlanta. And they're trying to get you to take Atlanta by making it 14.5, in which case I don't care. Take Buffalo. Arizona-Dallas... that's an afternoon game, but who cares? We'll just go down the list. Arizona-Dallas is the most interesting game on the board. For me, I like Kansas City-Cincinnati too, but Arizona-Dallas is really like... It's the prove-it game for Arizona, and it's the prove-it game for Dallas. They finally both are playing a team that they need at this point in the season, I think. Because if Arizona can't even hang in this game after looking terrible without Hopkins so far, which it's pretty wild that he's this important to the offense, but... it's not that wild when you think about it that way. You just think like they have 4 good receivers. Can't they just figure something out? And it doesn't seem like Hopkins was always putting up eye-popping stats. Anyway, he was in and out of the lineup, but Kyler doesn't look the same, and him not having his security blanket is not great. And it looks like Zach Ertz is becoming the security blanket, but that's a different thing. And this Dallas defense is really good. They're really good. When they have their pass rushers in, which they are healthy now, their secondary becomes so much more opportunistic. It's like the same way Allen Iverson wasn't a good defender, but he almost always led the league in steals because he had Mutombo behind him, you know? And it's like you can be aggressive because you have someone else making up for what you need. And when they can put pressure on Kyler, I can see him turning it over because he doesn't have that security Hopkins to just throw it up to who will make a play. Then again, this spread is way too big. But that's kind of the idea of it, right? They're begging you to take Arizona. That's what Vegas is doing. Because they're scared that Arizona's wheels might have fallen off. And rightfully so. And so I'm having a hard time with what to do with this game. Because everyone acknowledges that the spread should probably be 3.5. And everyone also would say that they would take Dallas. And so it's like, yeah, well, that's why the spread's 6. And if you want to tease it, they don't want you to get points. And so this is a clever line, but I'm just going to end up taking Arizona here because 6 points, I mean, these teams aren't that different. It feels like recency bias to think Arizona is as terrible as their recent losses. Then again, I've been saying that their wheels have fallen off 2 years in a row now, and I am concerned. So it's tough, but I definitely think there's a world where this is a field goal game. And if Dallas wins it in a field goal game, you're going to go, hey, good win for Dallas. So that tells me that -6 is a little bit much, you know? It won't shock me if they win by 7. It won't shock me if Arizona rolls over and this is Dallas's statement game, but they haven't really had one of those, I don't think. Let's see. Dallas... yeah. The Bucs game was close, but they lost. They beat the Chargers, all right. Eagles, Panthers, Giants. Patriots win was good. I guess that's a statement game going on the road, but it's not like a we're going to blow you out kind of statement game. I guess the Falcons was that, but the Falcons are terrible, so I don't know if you get the same kind of credit in that one. If they come out and blow out the Cardinals, it's like, okay, now everyone is picking Dallas as their Super Bowl team. And if you go back to my Monday show, which will be probably right here if you wait till the end of the episode, but that will tell you that I think Dallas is the least flawed team in the NFL, except for their coach, who is terrible. That's another factor in this game. Both coaches have not been great. So that would cause me to take the points even more, because like if McCarthy blows something late, it's going to shock me. Or Kingsbury could do it too, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's a wash. I just think I think they're just begging me to take Arizona, which makes me want to take Dallas. But then I'm also falling into the trap of like, okay, even six is still too many. I'm giving up a touchdown with teams that I think are relatively equal. So as of now, I like Arizona, but I like teasing them up more. And we'll get to that towards the end. But I definitely like Dallas moneyline too. Like if this spread was a pick'em, I would like Dallas. But that's of course not what we're talking about. And if that's what I have to say, then I might as well take the 6 points. Carolina, New Orleans is a terrible game, and New Orleans looked like terrifying with Book in there. Is Simeon or Hill gonna play? I'm just gonna type Saints QB. 19 hours ago. It's Taysom. Damn it. Struggling. It's New Year's Eve. Give me a break. Still kind of in the middle of it. Going to control what we can control. Look, who knows? All these quarterbacks are bad, right? If it's Simeon, if it's Taysom Hill, if it's Ian Book, they're all bad. They're all bad. I don't have any follow-up to that, truthfully. But I will say I'm way more out on Carolina than I am on New Orleans. Of course. So this is a similar situation to me as the Arizona-Dallas one. It's like, all right, this line shouldn't be 6. What are we doing? They're begging me to take Carolina. But in this one, I at least have already crossed off, whited out, crossed it off again, and then just got a whole new sheet of paper because I'm so out on Carolina. It's ridiculous. Matt Rhule decided that Sam Darnold and Cam Newton in 2021 playing together is actually the move, rather than just starting PJ Walker, who's a kid and like might still be okay. And by the way, he like won a game for you against Arizona, but then you started Cam Newton because he had 2 short rushing touchdowns. He's platooning Cam Newton and Sam Darnold. What are you doing? What are you doing? And they don't have McCaffrey. I won't be caught dead taking that team. I don't care. They could be getting 14 in this game, and I would not take them. I'm not interested. It's not a vote of confidence for New Orleans, although their defense is great. So Carolina's probably not going to score. Like, this might be a shutout. This could easily be like a 10-0 win. And I'm like, covered, baby. Let's go. So give me New Orleans. Philly, Washington. Awful. It's a bad game, but like, people think Philly's good. The thing about them is they are really physically like dominant up front. They lose Miles Sanders. I think that has to matter. Like, I know he's been in and out of the lineup, and they started running it really well when he was out. But I just still think, like, if you're a running team with Hurts and Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, who like was out of the NFL, then I'm not really gonna worry about you that much. I mean, they're physically talented. They're good. But this is also a team that just like got crushed. They didn't get crushed. They lost by like 7 to the Giants, right? Eagles, no. I mean, they also beat the Giants, but they did lose by 6 to the Giants. So it's like, I don't know. I don't have a vote of confidence in Washington, but I just don't really want to take Philly as a road favorite of this much. 4.5. I mean, in my pool, they're at, which is where we generally open, it's 4. And so I'm like, all right, just give me Washington. I don't feel good about it. Eventually, I got to take one of these underdogs. And Washington Philly is like a game it's like a divisional game. It's tough. You could see Washington playing spoiler. I don't know. They still have Terry McLaurin. I'm expecting him to have like a ridiculous game at some point still. And Heineke is just Fitzpatrick. It's like sometimes he's good. Sometimes he just will throw 2 pick sixes and then try to get you back in the game, and then it's close, and you're like, all right, next week's the week he's going to be good. And then he starts with 2 pick sixes, and then he tries to throw you back in the game, and it's like, all right, next week he's good. And then he gets a concussion. That's basically what Heineke is. But then sometimes he actually gets you back in the game. And I just feel like this could be a potential upset. It wouldn't shock me if Philly blew this. I just don't buy them. And if Washington rolls over and Philly's too strong and physical for them, then so be it. But this will be my final bet against Philly, I guess. This is like my really... I mean, that's not true. If they make the playoffs and win this game, then I'll just bet against them again. But this is... I'm still on the Philly isn't as good as people think they are bandwagon, so I'm not going to take them as 4.5-point favorites. But I also won't put it in my picks. Kansas City, Cincinnati. Look, they're really just juicing these lines, it feels like, just to, like... Because they know where the action's going to go these days. They know what everyone is. We have enough sample size. Finally, it's week 17, but they've figured it out. It took a long time. Usually about halfway through the year, these lines just inflate all of a sudden because you're like, okay, we get it. But this one's rough. I mean, I don't think you should be getting Cincinnati at home as a 4.5-point dog. I don't. I think Cincinnati's rolling right now, and they've looked great. But they still have flaws defensively, I think. It's possible to exploit them. And if anyone's going to do it, it could be Joe Burrow at home in a game that, like, this is the most important Bengals game in many, many years. The fans should be absolutely insane. Burrow is as hot as can be, threw for 500 yards last week. Mixon's healthy. He has all 3 of his receivers healthy. The offensive line is a problem. But still, this is as good of a spot as you're ever really going to get Cincinnati. So if you don't believe in them now, you never, ever will. Until after this game, when they potentially win. And then people are like, I should have believed in Cincinnati. I think they're going to compete. Anyone could lose to Kansas City at any point. I get it. But I don't think there's many situations in the AFC, at least, of Kansas City going into any other stadium and having as hard a time as this one. New England, I just don't think like has the horses to run with them. That's just not a good matchup. And who else? I mean, the Bills, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably the Bills. But in any case, other than that, and even potentially more, I think that this game is really the hardest spots Kansas City might come across for a while. And so if there's ever a reason to back them to back off of them at all, this is probably it. And I think Burrow will make this a shootout. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think this game is going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to be 2 back and forth scoring events, and I'll take a home team that's good with 4.5 points. It won't shock me if it's a field goal game. It won't shock me if Kansas City puts up 50. You know, I don't think it'll be that much, but if it's like 42-37 and I lose, I'm like, all right, well, I was still pretty much right about what I thought it was going to be, so I can live with that. And if Kansas City's defense doesn't look great and Cincinnati's defense outplays them, is it gonna? I don't think it's that crazy to think Cincinnati could win that game. I don't. Not even a little bit. So you'll probably see them in a teaser to get that spread up a little bit. Because I'm scared of the Chiefs, obviously. But still, I think that spread is just like it's too much respect. I need to see it. And I like the Cincinnati team. I know they've lost a couple weird ones. I get it. But I think they're clicking a little more than people are realizing. Especially after last week. Jacksonville, New England is another one that it's like, I'm not taking Jacksonville, so congrats. This is the perfect bounce back for New England. They get everything, man. They get the new quarterback who's going to be good for a while. They finally lose to Buffalo, who I also hate, so I can't even be excited about it. And then they get a perfect bounce-back opportunity for their young quarterback who's scuffling against a team that lost to the New York Jets. It's not fair. Just take New England. It's annoying. You can't take Jacksonville. You just can't take Jacksonville. Miami, Tennessee is... I don't know how to feel about this game. I mean, both offenses seem like frauds to me. They both seem the same. In fact, this is the Ryan Tannehill revenge game. And it's like, if you switch these quarterbacks, isn't it the same game? It's like, oh yeah, you can throw to Waddle and you can throw to A.J. Brown. And everyone else, you're going to be terrified that it might be good and it might just look awful. And you might just randomly throw 4 picks in a game too. And 2 of them might be pick sixes. And then sometimes you'll be efficient and you're like, all right, this guy can be my starting quarterback for 5 more years. I don't know. They both are what they are. They seem so similar. I'm splitting hairs with the quarterbacks. And Miami hasn't changed since Tannehill's been there. It's like, yeah, we're average because our defense is probably better than you think it is, and our quarterback is both better and worse than you think he is. And I do think this is going to be like Waddle versus A.J. Brown, right? I mean, they're just both... They play similar roles in their offense. They get force-fed always. We hope they can catch every ball and break some tackles and make some touchdowns happen. And both defenses are good. I think both teams are well coached. Both coaches off of the Belichick coaching tree. This is going to be a low-scoring game. And whichever star receiver can do better, that's what it's going to be. I'm staying completely away from this one. And I'm only taking Miami because they're getting 3.5 points in a game that I'm like, I don't know. This game should be close. And so I'll take the 3.5 rather than laying the 3.5. So give me Miami, but it's not on any of my picks or anything. Denver and the Chargers. Man, I want to fade the Chargers badly after losing to Houston. Although I took Houston in that game and I didn't have the guts to bet them, but I wanted to. And I have been saying the Chargers are screwed for a while. Their defense is bad, even with their star players. Some of their star players are out. And they get smacked by a Houston team that had 22 players on the COVID list or whatever. It's like a full starting roster. So everyone's down on them, and then they come in here as 6.5-point favorites over Denver. You're like, yeah, that's a little bit of a lot, but a little bit of a lot. It's a hell of a saying. But do you want to take the Chargers right now? Some people still think they're explosive. Eckler's back. It changes everything. I acknowledge that. Denver has a good defense. The problem here is I can't take Drew Lock in the NFL. I'm just not going to take Drew Lock. So it's Drew Lock versus Herbert. And he's going on the road. And I'm like, no thank you, sir. So I don't think Teddy's going to play in this one. I haven't seen anything that says he's coming back. He got destroyed when he got that concussion. And I hope he doesn't come back for his sake. Still missing practices, it seems. Drew Lock expected to start. And I'm not taking Drew Lock. So there you have it. Take the Chargers, I guess. I don't care what the spread is. I'm not taking Drew Lock. Houston, San Francisco, this spread is huge too. It's like they really don't want us to take the obvious teams, which makes me think, let's take the obvious teams. But I've liked Davis Mills for so long. I really think he's good. I think if Davis Mills was in Mac Jones' spot, you'd be like feeling pretty much the same about them. And he's doing this with a Houston team that has nobody. Is Cooks playing in this game? Because that's pretty big. Because then I'll definitely take them. Because I think they can score. They actually can. It makes no sense, but they could. Yeah, he's on the practice field. So, yeah, I'm not ready to take San Francisco as a 12.5-point favorite. Also, Jimmy G. I'm not going to try to spell his name, right? 2 R's? T1 O P P O L O. Okay, 1 R. I see. Confident he'll start. 12 hours ago, Jimmy not practicing. Lance could start. I just don't know how to feel about this, and I don't know which one's better, semi-injured Garoppolo or Trey Lance. Probably Trey Lance. But who knows? It changes the offense, and I'm terrified because I have Debo and Kittle in my fantasy lineup in the championship. So let's hope this works out fine. You're playing Houston. Figure it out. I'd rather them start Trey Lance, actually, because I think he could just rip Houston apart, and it'd be fun to watch. But I don't know if he'll involve Debo and George as much as good old handsome-faced Jimmy will. So I'm terrified of this game. It's all I can think about. But I'm going to take Houston. I just like Davis Mills. I don't know. I want to root for Davis Mills and, like, lose by 10. I don't care. San Francisco should win. They're physical. They're, like, playing really well. The quarterback situation scares me, though. I don't know. I'm not going to take a team that I don't know who their quarterback is or if he's good as a 12.5-point favorite when they're, like, just a little bit above 500. And Davis Mills is on the other side. So, give me the Millman. Terrible nickname. Detroit, Seattle, just like last week, they're trying to say that Seattle is a touchdown favorite over people, which is funny because they're obviously not. But I have Russell Wilson on that same fantasy team. He's been my fantasy quarterback for 7 years. It's WrestleMania 7. That's the team name. And I think we're going to take home the gold this year. Finally. So, man, I've liked Detroit all year, and then I fade them and they cover, and I'm like, yeah, I keep saying how much I like Detroit, and then I don't take them. And I have an opportunity to do it here again. And, man, I like Seattle to win, and I would really like to middle this. I might do it. It's not on my picks right now. Because I think you could tease both sides of this and be fine. Seattle wins by 1 through 14, right? If you want a 6.5 point teaser. I just don't think Russ is going to go out with a whimper in his Seattle career. I understand he's probably not coming back next year. Or there's going to be drastic changes there somehow. And if they don't, that's just insane. But he's going to want one more like good game at home where he lights up. And this is a terrible team across from him. Like, what are we talking about here? And I know they just haven't looked like it, but they competed with the Rams. The Rams had a lot of people missing. It was a 10-point game, and they lost. They didn't really score, but that's the Rams defense, you know? Russ comes out, 4-touchdown game. Goodbye to the fans. 12th man's loud. I don't know. I think this is a middle game. I think Seattle wins. Like, they don't deserve to be 7.5-point favorites over anybody, of course. So if you want to take Detroit plus the points, I think I have that in my pool right now. I do. It's 6.5. I still have it. Just because it's so many points. But I do like Seattle to win, and I like Wilson to have a pretty good performance. I hope. Please. So, there's that. Rams-Baltimore is my favorite game on the board, but unfortunately, there's so much up in the air that the spread for this is kind of TBD. I assume that's because of the Baltimore situation. They're missing a lot of guys, first of all, most of which won't come back in their secondary. So I just think they're going to get torn apart. People just like don't understand how injured Baltimore is. They're down to like their 5th corner and stuff. Some people might play through injury. I mean, who knows? And they have people missing also, but the only reason to fade the Rams is because like Stafford hasn't looked good and he throws a bunch of picks, but I just think this is a team that is top tier, could go to the Super Bowl for sure. And with Cooper Kupp, with no one on the other side to do anything about him, against a really bad, I think they're a really bad defense right now. It's not their fault, but they're so injured, and I don't think they were a great defense to begin with. And your offense is Devontae Freeman and maybe Tyler Huntley or an injured Lamar. Mark Andrews could definitely eat in this game. I could see that being a problem. Because if you remember, the Rams got destroyed by the Niners, who just ate them up over the middle. Like, their linebackers are big and not meant to do that kind of stuff. Or small and fast. Like, they don't have the middle ground. They have a lot of, like, pass rushing linebackers. So I do worry about Andrews, but I think we're talking about either a banged up Lamar who's not 100% or Huntley, who I actually like Huntley. I don't know who I'd rather they play, but I think the Rams have gotten right. I think they look pretty good, and they are what they are at this point with Stafford. It's like, okay, he might not be exactly as good as we thought he was going to be, but in all likelihood, he's still at least a small upgrade over Jared Goff. And so this is what we got. And Sony Michel has led the league in rushing in December. I heard that on some podcast today. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one. And it's ridiculous, but if he's running hard and Baltimore's defense is bad and he bangs them heavily up front through 2 quarters, and then their secondary is not good to begin with, and they could just wilt in this game. Like, I could just see them going away. Kupp is too much to handle. It's 12 receptions, and you're like, oh my God. Odell takes one to the house, and you're like, ugh, even he's doing it. Or Van Jefferson, more likely. I mean, he's been a great deep threat for that. They're too good and healthy to lose this game. So I love them in this spot. And I think Baltimore has been a fade for me for weeks, if you've been watching. So I don't think this is the spot where they get better. In fact, I don't think it gets better for them. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. So I'm just going to continue to fade them. Give me the Rams, big time. Minnesota Green Bay is the night game, and Kirk Cousins will not play now. I was already on Green Bay early in the week, so when you look at my picks, you're going to be like, all right, this doesn't really help me that much because I didn't get it in when you got it in, maybe. Or you did, and congrats. Or I'm wrong, and I suck. But I teased Packers when they were at 6.5 and got them on the money line, so that will be in one of my picks. Now, with Cousins out, it's gone to 13, which is pretty rough. And Minnesota will be starting... I don't even know. Sean Mannion? Is that really who it is? Yeah. And he just got activated on Friday. And he was sick with COVID. Huh. Minnesota signed Kyle Slaughter, Vegas practice squad. Kellen Mond was active. Why don't they play Kellen Mond? He's just that bad? He just got drafted. Like, you drafted him in the 3rd round. Why wouldn't he play? But I guess they're not going to do that. So, Sean Mannion. Can't believe we're doing this. But I gotta know. Hasn't played since 2019. Let's do game log 2019. I could have done career, but whatever. Here we go. Chicago, they lost 12 for 21. They were at home. No touchdowns, 2 picks. Didn't have Jefferson for what it's worth. Might have had Diggs, though. This team is pretty bad. Is this for real? Yeah. Laquan Treadwell. I mean, this team was it was horrible. So I don't know. I mean, the spread is just inflated beyond the realm where there's value, I guess. Because I liked Green Bay at 7. I still think their defense is good, and I think they've had a couple pieces missing, and it's looked subpar the past couple weeks, but I think that's a little bit more of an aberration. Some people think that their defense is just beatable, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out in this game, although we might not because it's a backup quarterback. We would have. I'm still on their side, and I think Rodgers just tears Minnesota apart. I don't think their defense has been great. They got some of their horses back and still lose games, and you're like, oh, well, maybe this is over for the Harrison Smith, Anthony Barr kind of anchor of the defense thing. Maybe they need some new blood in there. I don't know. I haven't liked Minnesota all year, really. I've been fading them all the time. And I've been saying Kirk Cousins is bad, though. And now you're going to a backup that I'm like, well, this isn't much of a drop-off to me, honestly. I don't like Kirk Cousins, and I don't know who Sean Mannion is, really. Isn't he, like, really old? Didn't he play, like, a lot of years at Oregon State? Or am I thinking of the wrong guy? I mean, not old, but... Yeah, he's 29 for, like, a guy that hasn't been in the league that long. So you'd know by now if Sean Mannion was good, I think. I don't know. I'm lost on this one. I don't have to make a decision because I'm not going to be taking that game at 13 probably. And I already teased it down to 0. So I'm still going to have that in my picks because, you know, it feels good when it wins. And that's where I got it. And I tweeted that out, if it helps, at Mike Mush Sports. If you want up-to-the-minute stuff, we're not live here every day, but we're live there every day. That's a good slogan. Twitter, you can take it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. 13's a lot against a Minnesota team that you're like, you could have probably talked yourself into them getting 7 if you wanted to. I'm not a believer. But now that it goes up 6 points, and I don't think the quarterback drop-off is that bad. Thielen's out for the year, too. But, again, it's like it's the Jefferson show or nothing. And what if, like, Mannion and Jefferson actually have a good game together, and it's just Jefferson and Adams going off back and forth, and then 13's too many, you know? So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to pick a side in that, honestly, because it's too weird. I have to think about it. And I don't think I will pick a dog in that race. I guess I could talk myself into the plus 13, I guess. Because I don't think the quarterback drop-off is bad from Kirk Cousins. Some people do. But I definitely like Green Bay money line, tell you that. Cleveland, Pittsburgh. This has nothing to do with anything. I hate this game. Both teams are bad. Baker Mayfield, I still like you, but your arm is falling off. He's going to have to get surgery. Who knows if his career will ever be the same after taking the beating like this. I still think Baker Mayfield's going to be a guy where, like, he takes a good backup job and looks good and then has a good moment, and then he starts in a couple of years on a team and you're like, oh, I forgot he could be, like, pretty good. I could see that happening, and he has, like, a weird playoff run or something. That's Baker Mayfield to me. I don't think he's as bad as people make it seem, but he's super injured. And I'm just going to go with the narrative here because I think Big Ben is terrible. I do think he's so bad. He's so bad. He's so bad. But I can't ignore the fact that this is his last home game as a Steeler. He's going to retire. He's going to leave it all out on the field. He might throw a million picks, but he's definitely going to throw it down the field. He's going to do crazy shit. He's going to leave his body out there. He's going to take hits. He's going to be very tough. And the crowd is going to be crazy if it's close at all. And I don't know. They do have TJ Watt. So, like, maybe he just breaks the game, too. And TJ Watt and Myles Garrett could just be like, by the way, neither quarterback are going to play well today. Let's just get that clear. So, I don't know. But with that narrative and getting the 3.5 at home, and I like Cleveland, but the quarterback situation has not been fixed. And, you know, I'm just not ready to take that as a 3.5 point dog, especially fading the crowd knowing it's Big Ben's last game. If he wins the game, everyone's going to be like, yep, that makes sense. And then next week he just takes a dump. And it's 4 picks, and he goes out with a whimper, but everyone remembers the Pittsburgh game in Week 17. So that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh. Let's get to the picks. Let's get to the picks. 5-pack. 5-pack of picks. First up, this is a little weird, but we're doing a 10-point teaser, and it's going to have an over-under in it. 10-point teaser, Eagles and the football team, under 56. I don't know if they get to 25. 56 feels good on a 10-point tease. I don't love teasing over-unders all the time, but sometimes it's appropriate. And it worked for us on Monday with the Dolphins. So Eagles, football team under 56. Bengals plus 15 home against the Chiefs. I really hope you can cover 2 touchdowns when I think you could possibly win the game. Cardinals plus 15.5 at the Cowboys. Same exact reason. And Packers plus 3.5 against the Vikings. You're not going to be able to get that one anymore, but for what it's worth, I'd still put the Packers in a 10-point tease, even if you had to lay -3 or whatever it is. I get them at plus 3.5, and that is -130 on the 10-point teaser. Then I have a 6-point teaser. Seahawks -1 against the Lions. I think they win the game. I'm believing in Russ. If I get bit again by a 2-point conversion at the buzzer to lose, so be it, but I don't believe that'll happen. And then the Packers again, teased with the Vikings. I know it feels like cheating, but you could tease them down. I still like them at -7 then if you're teasing them down. I get them at the money line. Then we have a bigger parlay, but I'm just ready to fade all these teams. I just looked at the board and I said, I don't think any of these teams are going to win a football game in Week 17. So I'm parlaying Bears versus Giants, Bucks at Jets, Bills versus the Falcons, Pats versus the Jaguars, and 49ers versus the Texans. Now, Davis Mills scares me. I will admit it. But the odds on a Bears, Bucks, Bills, Pats, 49ers parlay is plus 113. And they're all monster favorites that should dominate bad teams. Then I'm also going to throw the Rams in against the Ravens. Now, I don't have a spread for this, and I couldn't tell you exactly what that's going to look like. It could be the money line. It could be the spread. It could be buying points in either direction. It could end up as a teaser, which I have next. But I'm definitely reserving a slot in my picks for Rams against the Ravens. And you'll see at Mike Mush Sports exactly what that pick is going to be when the quarterback is named, and we'll see what happens. The final one is going to be a parlay. It's also going to include the Rams, so I don't know exactly what the odds are, but it will be Rams money line at the Ravens. I think they win the game. And Colts money line against the Raiders. We said before that we like them. That is TBD on the odds. Also could turn into a teaser if I think the odds are better. So again, at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram to see that. Those are the picks for this weekend. Happy New Year. Give me a follow. Subscribe below, please. It helps the algorithm. Click the likes. Leave some comments. We'll see you next week. Peace out.